Well, that was the Minister. We're joined now by Kate Andrews from the Adam Smith Institute. We did ask for an interview with Nicky Morgan or any government minister on this issue, but none was available again. Instead, they suggested we talk to the Conservative backbencher, Mims Davis, who's a member of the Women and Equalities Committee in Parliament. So we did. And she joins us now from Southampton. Welcome, both of you, to the Daily Politics. Mims Davis, if this is such a good idea, why is it taking so long to implement? I mean, it's not that complicated.
I think it is complicated, actually, for women to get the true equality that we're looking for as a government, and I think it's right the government's taking the lead on this. There's lots of factors that are affecting women getting the true value
I'm asking
in
you,
work.
why will it take so long simply to compile the data? Companies already have the pay data of all their employees. I mean, you could do it in a month.
There are some people trailblazing on this, absolutely, but there are some people putting it in the too difficult box. So it's absolutely right that government, holds their feet to the fire on this.
But you're not holding their feet to the fire. You're telling them they don't have to do it to 2018. Why don't you tell them to do it by September?
I think most companies have got a fair idea of where they are on this, and it's absolutely right that we give companies the time to look at the procedures. Certainly in the Women and Equality Select Committee, we've heard from people that find it very easy. They're already doing it. They're attracting the right women to their workforce. There are other people that are feeling that, it's not something that's important to them, and it's right that as government, we explain to them why it's important for men and women and business and the public sector to get this area right. Because I'm a mum of 2 daughters. I want merit and ability to come through when it comes to people succeeding in the workforce.
No, I know the case for doing it. I'm just trying to get you to address the timetable, but I know when I've lost that. Is this an attempt to name and shame? Is that the idea of making it public?
Well, on the Women and Equality Select Committee, which of course has started this term in the Parliament, we've been certainly highlighting areas where people feel that people aren't doing the right work and bringing them into Parliament and explaining that. There are people that think this doesn't go far enough, and there are people that don't think there's any need to do this.
So give us an example of a company that does well in this area and a company that's doing badly.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone particularly badly, but I know there's certain sectors where it's a little bit more to get in to see what they're doing. But
so you can't give me a company that's doing badly in an area which you specialise, women and equalities? You can't name a company that is not doing well with the gender pay gap?
I'd be pretty loath to point out one person in this, which is exactly
No, I'm not asking for a person,
company.
I'm asking for a company.
Yeah, well, I'd be pretty loath to do that directly, because for me, it's really important that, we get everybody, on the same page of this, which is why the government's giving time for people to consider why this is important.
But you're going to be able to make it public by 2018 anyway, so you are going to be able to identify it. So if you've done some work now, I'm simply asking for an example of where it's not doing so well.
In terms of trailblazers, I know that Ernst & Young's name came up very much in the committee just this week when we heard from Nicky Morgan. And I think this is the reason that the government feels that some companies and sectors can do it. They are doing it and they're seeing the value. OK. Kate Andrews, what's wrong with knowing how companies are doing on the gender pay gap?
Well, look, I think we all want equality in the workplace. We want equality for men and women.
Sure, let's take that for granted. So what's wrong with publishing a list?
Yeah, the problem is that the regulations that the government has set out have created manipulated statistics that businesses are going to have to put on their website. We actually submitted to the consultation and we wrote to the government saying, if you want to look at the way that companies break down the gender pay gap, you have to control for jobs like for like. You have to control people doing the same job, and you have to control for hours worked. And what the government has put forward is the worst way one could possibly try to come up with the gender pay gap.
What is the worst way?
Just looking at the median and mean of male and female employees in your workplace is going to compare the chief executive with receptionists. It's going to compare people who are working in marketing to people in human resources to people in engineering. You have no idea if the men and women in those different sectors should be getting paid the same because they have different jobs.
All right, let me put that to the MP. Mims Davis, what do you say to that?
arguments that this isn't detailed enough, so I understand this, but I think government acting on this is really, really important.
Not if you're going to come up with a bad number, though. I mean, it's not just that it's not detailed enough. It's that these numbers are going to produce very manipulated statistics that people are going to take for granted and use all the time. It's going to further this idea that women are being victimized in the workplace, and it's not helping Sally in marketing find out if she's actually being paid unfairly in comparison to Bob. It doesn't help individuals who are experiencing sexism in the workplace.
Okay, I'll come back. Mims Davis, what's your response?
I think actually we heard evidence in the Select Committee that what's really important is to make sure that if you are in marketing or if you are in leadership, that you have the same opportunities to progress in the company. So I think if it's out there how much people are being paid and how that company handles men and women, I think we will see some real progress for women, and that parity that the government and certainly the Prime Minister was talking about last year at his conference speech. So I think it's right that we're doing this. I understand that some people feel it's not detailed enough, but I certainly think by 2018 people will be shining a light on this, and this is exactly what the government wants.
How bad is the gender pay gap?
Hold on.
My apologies, Mims Davis. I was asking Kate Andrews, but I will also come to you as well.
Here in the UK, if you're a woman between the ages of 22 and 40, you are earning equal or slightly more on average.
The gender pay gap at that age group is actually against men.
Yes, it is. And then once you hit 40, it drops off significantly. Now, it's no surprise that we know that this usually has to do with taking time off of work to raise children. There isn't a pay gap between men and women in here in the UK. There's a motherhood pay gap between mothers and non-mothers. Now, we should talk about that. That's not good. I mean, that's what we should really be focused on. But forcing employers in particular to publish statistics like this is just attacking employers who actually, on average, if women are as experienced as men, if they are working the same amount of hours, women. They like to pay them more. So the real issue is whether or not women are having to take that time off of work. Are they choosing to take that time off of work? Should maybe the husbands be staying home a little bit more? These are the conversations we need to have.
Kelvin McKenzie, you're nodding, even grunting in agreement there.
Well, I've been an employer. I've been an employer now for, say, 35 years. The idea that you would, whether you give somebody more money or less money based on their gender is absolutely absurd. Mind you, I've only ever been in the media, so perhaps that is a different kind of industry from the norm. The truth about the matter today, if I looked at my daughter, first in English, a teacher, my stepdaughter in the insurance business, honestly, the toughest people, the cleverest people I know, the idea that a male manager could hold them down is ludicrous. And honestly, I agree with your point. I actually do believe that men actually want to promote women, even at the expense of their male employees now. It has completely turned.
Oh, dream on, Kelvin, really. I mean, the data, even the good data that we have, and I agree that what the government is proposing is a bit raw, but actually the data we have tells a different story. Young women, yes, are doing very well. There is exactly a fall-off just before 40. Actually, by the time you get into your 40s, and certainly into your 50s as a woman, the pay gap has gone wider. Now, to say, oh, well, this is just because they've had children taking time out, seems to me then to not particularly look at the question, what is the encouragement for women to work part-time? How are they being rewarded if they do work part-time? And how do they get back up the tree again? To take young women who are doing fantastically well and say this is going to continue on a line going upwards is not what the data shows, not in America and not here. So let me just give you an example. If, for instance, you have me on here as a very modestly paid guest. Now, if I were to take if I were a fortune, if I were to be presenter or indeed Andrew's editor, a job to which I've always
Never going to happen.
When I've come back into the workplace, then clearly I'm not going to be in the gender pay gap in the same way. So it's often about what women get the chance to do when they come back into the workforce after motherhood.
I completely agree.
Which was what was Kate's point.
Yes, that is the fundamental problem. It is lifestyle choices that many women want to make that mean that they take time off of their career and they don't have the same opportunities coming back. My biggest frustration is that a lot of women, I think, are pressured into making those choices and they don't feel they have that flexibility because we as a society still promote stereotypical gender roles. But that's an issue for the private sphere. It's not an issue for the government.
Let me give Mims Davis the final word.
Well, thank you. Absolutely. as a member of the Women and Equality Select Committee, we are looking at all of that: part-time working, agile working, and the fact that women over 40 are more penalised. So this is a package of measures that the government is taking, and certainly that we're recognising. And absolutely, I do think men want to promote women, and real equality will be dads on the school run, dads at the plays, dads able to take time off to care and look after children as well. So that's real equality, and this is what the government is looking to lead on, and I'm delighted that business is so much behind this as well.
Right.
There's some great examples out there. We can do more.
Right, thank you very much. We'll leave it there. Thanks to our guest.